Creepy things I found around the internet while trying to sleep is a compilation I put together every week of just crazy stuff that I run across that I think you guys might like. This includes anything from ghosts to monsters to conspiracies, just whatever is kind of weird out there, and I hope you guys like this week's choices. I figured we'd start this out with a little bit of existential dread because you know how I love it. 15810 Arawn, or 1994 JR1, is a Kuiper Belt object that New Horizons had at one point flown by sort of recently. Arawn is considered a trans-Neptunian object, which means that it's way, way out there in the depths of space. Arawn translates into God of the Underworld or Other Worlds. They always seem to name it the scariest shit for some reason. Anyway, the strange thing with Arawn is that when they sent over New Horizons the probe to take a look at it, they noticed that by measuring the light off of the surface of Arawn that it was spinning extremely fast for its size. This object is the size of Delaware, and it's actually spinning so fast that its day is about 5.5 hours. This really confused scientists because it seems like it spun so fast that it would, in theory, create its own gravity. This led scientists to investigate a little bit further and assume that this may be something that wasn't naturally made. When they sent New Horizons to go see this object, the closer that they got to Arawn, the New Horizons spacecraft actually malfunctioned and stopped delivering data to NASA. For a full hour and 45 minutes, New Horizons was unable to collect any data about this object. And as soon as it got past the object, all of a sudden it came back to life and started transmitting data. This, of course, confused scientists and led to further speculation that this object that's out there in the Kuiper Belt could quite possibly be something of extraterrestrial origin that interfered with the data and the signal from New Horizons back to Earth. Yes, we really are just robots. No matter how much you try to deny it. Most people think of robots like the metal robots. Humans are biological robots. It's just that we're way more advanced than those bleep bleep robots. Your personality is just chemicals in your brain. Everything we perceive is just electrical signals interpreted in our brain as outside phenomena. Instincts are like coding to us. We're selfish beings by nature, which is necessary for our survival. The brain is like a computer that has control over our body. Emotions are just as robotic. It's just the chemicals in your brain making you feel things and your brain reacting to those outside stimuli, and then generating feelings in response to that. Use chemical substances to mess around with the chemicals in your body and you'll be a completely different person. Sometimes people with brain damage have become entirely different people with completely different personalities. Humans are so similar. We run on the same chemicals. Just like robots, more or less, we act the same. Things like sex are all just chemicals and instinct. Your love for your family is just chemicals as well. You're made to love them. Love is just a feeling caused by desire for comfort or to belong, which is good for our survival, again, robotic. Anger, sadness, pity, happiness are all just robotic responses to the outside world which can be manipulated with substances. Everything boils down to the desire to survive and prosper, which is rather robotic and set. We were hardwired for it as our base trait that all humans have. No matter how much you try to argue that we're unique or special in some way, at the most basic level, we're all just robots and controlled by our own chemicals. We just happen to be more advanced and capable of far more. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being robotic and controlled to some extent by our brain and ego. It is in fact just people letting their ego get in the way of what causes them to refuse this sort of idea, because it seems so alien and might invalidate their sense of self. In July of 1952, a bunch of air traffic controllers reported seeing a bunch of lights in the sky. And it wasn't just air traffic controllers that were from a specific airport. These were a series of air traffic controllers from different airports in different areas very far away from each other. These air traffic controllers reported seeing about 5 to 6 lights in the sky that they couldn't explain. So because they couldn't explain it, they basically sent out jets to go see what was going on. At the time, the government had already started Project Blue Book, so they were already studying these sort of phenomenon, so they basically added this one to the list of the ones that they were already studying. So many people saw this happen that it was reported on the news as well as on the cover of the Washington Post. The government tried to explain it as a temperature aversion or mirages that people were seeing. They actually denied it up until recently when the government went public with its UFO information. I'm not a person who's actually hunted any animals to eat. I definitely have not cleaned an animal at any point in my life. I'm not sure if this is supposed to happen. I assume that it is, just because everybody's saying this is a very fresh kill, like maybe 10 minutes ago. But this made my skin crawl so badly. Okay, so he's just cleaning it, like you do with a turkey. And then he what is going on here? Is that like the nerves, just dying in there? I can't take it. It's awful. Back in the early 1700s, there was a woman called Cora who showed up outside of a small village unannounced. The village wasn't used to having people just show up out there, but she seemed to not be causing any problems, and she was only there with a very small child. There didn't seem to be a husband or anything. She lived in a really run-down hut on the outskirts of town. As Cora continued to live there, people started noticing that she was kind of strange. Anytime she seemed to be in town, something really bad would happen. At that time, a captain had also arrived in town who had just returned from Salem, Massachusetts. Right before he happened to start his investigation, a body washed up on the beach that had the number 666 burned into his forehead. At that time, too, they also found very small footprints that the captain believed belonged to a woman. Well, that was enough for the captain, so he went ahead and he put her through the witch tests. He threw her in a very shallow ravine and tried to drown her. It's also said that he tried to cut her hair off, but it was tough like wires. He was unable to do that as well. Having already determined that she was a witch in his mind, he had every member of his crew prick their fingers and put their blood into a bowl. He used that bowl to scry the word witch, to just kind of seal the deal. So he decided that he was going to burn her at the stake. Well, at the time he was tying her to the tree with her baby, another captain that was also there said that, hey man, you can't do this. We'll let the court deal with it, but he was adamant that she was a witch. Well, in the time that they were arguing, Cora happened to turn into a big black cat and scurry off. That at that same time, there was a bolt of lightning that hit the tree and just kind of blew everything up. So everybody was stunned. They didn't know what to say. They just saw this lady turn into a cat. And as the smoke cleared, they noticed on the tree that there was 4 letters burned into the tree. And it was the word Cora.
Back when we caught a whole S ghost on camera.